All right. 'Cause I'm kind of excited to see what
Do we need
PragerU
to
has to say about
destroy the
climate.
environment to save it? That's the question I faced a few years ago. I co founded a movement that was the precursor to the Green New Deal. It was called the New Apollo Project.
The New Apollo Project. What is that all about? New. I can't spell. climatekic.org. Apollo program named after the space program. 2-degree climate target by up to $4 trillion. Blah, blah, blah. New study finds the program could reduce the cost of meeting a 2-degree climate change. So they're trying to make it cheaper, I guess, to fix climate change.
If
All
we
right.
could send a man to the moon, we reasoned, surely we could save our own planet. All we had to do was harness the power of the wind and the sun and get rid of fossil fuels. Compared to the original Apollo mission, how
I mean, there's more to it than that, but yes. The commercial beef industry, a large a large portion of the CO2 that ends up in the atmosphere comes from cow burps. Everybody says it's cow farts, but apparently a farmer told me cows can't fart; they burp, which still releases the methane, which gets up into our atmosphere. So there's the commercial meat industry. There is pollution from chemical manufacturing. There's pollution that goes into the ocean from manufacturing, as well as all the plastic in the ocean, like the garbage island that's in both the Pacific and the Atlantic, that are both the size of Texas. There are more to it than just switching to renewable energy and getting rid of fossil fuels, but moving off of fossil fuels would be like the biggest thing that we could do.
How hard could that be? Well, it turned out to be very hard, practically impossible, in fact. The basic laws of physics and chemistry proved to be very stubborn. But as I did more and more research, something else began to trouble me. The prospect that pushing the planet toward wind and solar energy would actually cause more harm to the environment than good. There's no better
What?
example of this than what wind and solar energy do to birds.
Is this the this is the windmills or wind turbines hit birds that are flying and so they're bad argument? Okay.
Industrial wind turbines, those giant generators of wind power, are the
Uh-huh.
greatest new threat to golden and bald eagles. But the eagles are hardly the only ones threatened. Condors, owls, hawks, and falcons all fall prey to the turbine's mighty blades. Big wind, and believe me, there's a big wind industry now, just like there's big oil and big pharma, claims that house cats kill
Big
more birds than wind
wind.
turbines. That's true, but whereas cats kill small, common birds like sparrows, wind turbines kill big, threatened with extinction and slow to reproduce species like bald eagles and condors. Indeed, industrial wind farms are killing fields for birds. The more turbines you put up, the more birds you're going to slaughter.
Okay. So I don't necessarily disagree with that. Yeah, let's put lights on the blades. That would work. Make them more visible at night. But the death of certain species of birds, while tragic, not good, is less harmful than letting the planet turn into an easy bake oven and making it uninhabitable for all species, not just birds. Is my camera crooked? There we go. But there are also other alternatives. Solar energy, nuclear energy, for sure. We have the resources to be able to power our society exclusively by nuclear energy. We would just need to invest into them. Although at this point, because of how long it takes for them to build, we're behind the 8 ball at this point for creating enough nuclear reactors to power all of society. So these quick pop-up wind farms and solar farms are a great way to hold it off until we can get those nuclear power plants up and running and be able to power our society through clean nuclear energy. The only damaging waste, it's also not big enough to be an actual, to actually be a threat. I'm not sure what you mean. Are you meaning like climate change, or are you meaning the wind turbines for birds? But solar and wind power are a great way to hold off the oncoming tide of doom until we can transition to nuclear power. The only waste they give is radioactive rods, which can be disposed of. And I believe there's a certain type of fungus that we can mass produce that literally eats nuclear radiation. But, I mean, there are a bunch of options. If wind turbines aren't the best, we also have hydroelectric. My entire state and the 2 states around it are powered by by the Grand Coulee Dam. One fixture powers 3 states.
According to the American Bird Conservancy in 2017, research shows that hundreds of thousands of birds and bats die every year when they accidentally collide with the turbine blades. That number grows with each turbine built. The
Okay.
Royal Society for the Preservation of Birds reports that wind farms built off the coast of Britain could be the final nail in the coffin for endangered seabirds. The Center for
Okay.
Biological Diversity calls the Altamont Pass wind farm in California a population sink for golden eagles as well as burrowing owls. As for
Okay.
solar farms, they produce an entirely different set of problems, although they also are very harmful for birds. In California, according to a federal report,
So this is just feel bad for the birds, do nothing? The video? Hey babe, how you doing? There is going to be downsides to just about anything that we can use until we can set up a nuclear power grid. But even then there are downsides. Like I was saying, the waste rods. It's not as big of a threat to the birds as he's claiming. Yeah, I didn't think so. But I mean, even if there is some harm to bird species, we're at the point where we need to think in terms of harm reduction rather than elimination at this point. It would, even if what he is saying is true and it was like super harmful to birds to have these wind generation farms, or even I guess solar farms if they're actually harmful to birds, which I doubt is what he's saying it is. Even if it is harmful to certain species of birds, it's better than having the entire rest of the planet becoming essentially a second Mars with an atmosphere. Who's Caitlin Bennett? She is Gun Girl from Liberty Hangout. I covered her video earlier, though for the first half of it, my desktop audio was off, so I can't post that on YouTube.
Massive solar arrays produce heat up to 900 degrees. When birds fly into those arrays, they simply burn up.
I'm gonna fact check that one, buddy. Solar panels, 900-degree rays, vaporize birds. I highly doubt that's fucking true. Missing an I in the title. Oh no, did I spell it wrong? Yeah, she also pooped her pants at a frat party in college. Evaporate birds. Okay, can birds die from solar panels? A rare and unusual type of solar power plant that concentrates sunlight in California is accidentally killing 6,000 birds a year. So not a whole lot, and it's in one location, and it's a unique type of power generation that the birds keep flying into. It's concentrated beams of sunlight and spontaneously burn into flames. Maybe KFC can get in on that. That joke's in bad taste. My wife likes birds. Yeah, but it's one location in California where they're trying a new type of solar power generation. There's gonna be some growing pains for this kind of shit, but a traditional solar field is not going to do what they're saying.
Building a solar farm is a lot like building any other kind of massive industrial facility. You have to clear the whole area of wildlife. For example, in order to construct the Ivanpah Solar Farm in California near the Nevada border, developers hired biologists to pull threatened desert tortoises from their burrows.
So they were relocated rather than just killed. What's the
The
problem?
tortoises were then loaded on the back of pickup trucks and caged in pens, where many ended up dying. Solar
That's
farms also
sad.
need millions and millions of gallons of water to clean the mirrors and to generate power. Since
Yes.
most solar farms are built in the desert, we're talking about a precious resource.
Is that where they heat a block of sodium with focused sunlight? I don't know. Let's find out. California solar array focused sunlight. Focuses sunlight on 3 boiler towers. Okay, so I think it's generating steam power through light refraction? Is a concentrated solar... So this is the one he's talking about. Thermal plant in the Mojave Desert. It located blah, 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 across the state line, blah, blah, blah. Has a gross capacity of 392 megawatts. It deploys... each with 2 mirrors focusing solar energy onto boilers located on 3 459 foot tall solar power towers. The first unit of the system. So it looks like it either reflects sunlight onto these towers that either generate power via solar power or by heating water and creating steam power. But I mean, it's kind of cool. It's sad that birds get dead from it, but it's better that a few birds die. It's less harmful for a few birds to die and for us to utilize this technology to save the rest of the entire planet's ecosystem.
Already in short supply.
And that's just my opinion.
When push comes to shove, water could become the real throttle on renewable solar energy, according to Michael Weber, professor of mechanical engineering at the University of Texas at Austin. Then there's the issue of what to do with solar.
So because there's a drought in California, or at least there was, I think it's still ongoing, we should just throw our hands up in the air. There are plenty of places with fresh potable water that we could utilize, but you don't even need potable water. You can use recycled water that's not fit for human consumption that can still clean the shit. We can't use it, and then it'll get recycled into the water cycle, and we'll end up drinking it later after it's been filtered by nature. That's just the water cycle. You just got to move it somewhere. And with Tesla, even with how problematic Elon Musk is, I will say that Tesla is doing great things for moving towards electric vehicles. They're developing electric-powered semi-trucks that could be used to transport the water. That way we're not burning fossil fuels to bring water to the solar power plant. You're looking at things through a very finite lens of birds are dying and that's bad, and water is being used and that's bad. There's more harm in not doing these things.
Panels that wear out. The panels contain lead and other toxic chemicals that can't be removed without breaking up the entire panel. Since it's far cheaper for solar manufacturers to just buy the raw materials than recycle old panels, those old panels end up in landfills.
It's almost like capitalism is a problem then. It's not profitable for companies to do things that are more environmentally friendly, so they end up harming the environment. Maybe if their main focus wasn't profit, they would be more economically ecologically conscious. But, you know, that's capitalism, baby.
Or, as the New York Times discovered in a 2019 investigation, dumped in poor African nations.
Yeah.
Wind turbines may have an...
Yeah, American capitalism is fucking countries all around the world, not just our own. Americans aren't the only ones that are impacted negatively by the capitalist society that we live in. In fact, the majority of the harm is done to people who live in impoverished nations around the world, be it through our use of sweatshops and blatant slave labor in third world countries, as well as dropping our garbage and refuse off in, like he was saying, impoverished nations in Africa. Yeah, capitalism fucking sucks, dude. It just happens to be the only system we live in right now.
An even worse disposal problem than solar panels. First, They are gigantic. A single blade can be longer than a wing on a jumbo jet.
Okay.
Second, they're made of fiberglass, which has to be cut by a diamond-studded saw to be carted away on giant trucks.
Okay.
And as with solar panels, the only thing to do is bury them, toxic materials and all. This is done, as you can imagine, in enormous pits, creating yet another landfill problem.
There's no way to recycle wind turbine blade recycling. Turbine blades are difficult to recycle. Turbine blades tend to be made of composite, glass, or carbon material. Unlike steel and copper, these materials are not as valuable. They're not as valuable when recycled, so many turbine owners turn to less green disposal methods. Look at that, capitalism killing the planet again.
All this
because it's expensive to reuse them and recycle them. They choose not to.
Environmental degradation is happening on a relatively small scale right now because we get less than 10% of our electricity from wind and solar sources.
Mm-hmm.
If we were really to embark on a wind and solar build-out of the kind environmentalists advocate, the damage would be much, much greater.
Notice how he isn't talking about nuclear, geothermal, or hydroelectric power. It's just these two that are clickbaity. Everybody knows about solar power. Everybody knows about wind turbines because you can see them. You can see them at a distance. You can see a solar farm at a distance. You can see a wind farm at a distance. There's some on the other side of the mountains that I've driven past several times. It's kind of cool to watch because of just the sheer size of them. But there are other options that aren't solar and wind power that are being used widely. Like I said, my state and the 3 states around it are all powered by the Grand Coulee Dam.
Consider this. Today's energy system requires just 0.5% of the land in the US. If we were to get all the energy we now use from wind and solar, at least 25% of all land in the US would be required.
I doubt
That's
that's
a lot
accurate.
of
I'd like
dead
to see their
wildlife.
source on that.
Doesn't sound very green, does it? I'm Michael Schellenberger, founder and president of Environmental Progress and author of Apocalypse Never for Prager University. Thank you for watching this.
So it's expensive to do things in a green manner for these 2 types of green energy. Wind power and solar power. But so we should just do nothing. It's interesting to me that PragerU decided to completely ignore the existence of any other type of green energy, which are beneficial to the environment, that doesn't involve killing large swaths of wildlife, taking up a shit ton of space to do, and things like that. Geothermal energy, as far as I understand it, the plants are basically just a large building. Same with nuclear power plants. They're just a really big building. And hydroelectric plants, they're a dam on a river. We got lots of them here in the United States. We could do these things and use solar power and wind power because they're quick to pop up right now. We could use those in the immediate future of climate catastrophe that's coming if we don't do anything now. And take that extra time we've bought ourselves to transition to less environmentally impactful methods of power generation. But they don't want to do that. They just want to throw their hands up in the air. It's like, well, let's keep burning coal and oil because that's what our financial backers want us to say. That's one thing that I don't like about PragerU, is that they try to they poise themselves as this educational platform that is they advertise themselves as a university, even though they're not actually a university. But really, they're just spitting out right-wing talking points for their conservative backers. And as far as I've been made aware, now I haven't been able to find a source on this. Not that I've really spent the time to look, but one of their big backers is an oil company. Basically, they're backed by big oil, so it's no surprise that they're putting out shit like this. But yeah, they're framing it as those are the only two options. And they're bad, so we shouldn't do anything. And it's very frustrating because there are a lot of options available to us, but people see that this has almost 2 million views. This has 1.7 million views on YouTube. 1.7 million people have seen this, and I guarantee you the majority of the people that watch this aren't people like me that know better. So that's a shit ton of people that just got the idea put into their head by these kinds of people that there's nothing to do because anything we try to do is even worse than what we're doing now. And it's fucking terrible. Look at this. Nuclear energy be like, hey, if you need something, just ask. Lefties. We need solar and wind to save the environment. Right wingers. No, fossil fuels are the best source we got. Nuclear power. Am I a joke to you? Yeah. These people know what's going on. Nuclear and hydroelectric, geothermal, perfection. Oh, you love to see it. That's fucking poggers right there. See, I was right. Like, maybe I was wrong. Maybe a lot of people that did watch this, because these are all like the highest upvoted comments on here, are talking about saying the exact same things I am: nuclear, hydroelectric, and geothermal power. So I guess this does bring a little bit of I don't know if it sparks joy, but it does make me feel a little bit better about the direction that humanity is heading, because not as many people as I thought are susceptible to this kind of bullshit that these videos are putting out. But well, I've been going for almost 2 hours now. Unless you guys want me to do another video, I think I might pop off.